Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In a moment that will go down as one of the most emotionally explosive confrontations in The Young and the Restless history, Audra Charles finally shatters the web of lies that has been suffocating her soul when she storms into Victor Newman's office, her hands trembling, her voice cracking, and her eyes blazing with equal parts terror and desperation as she screams the words that stop Victor cold in his tracks. "Don't shoot my brother." A plea so raw and unexpected that even the great Victor Newman, a man who has stared down enemies, mobsters and empires without blinking, feels the air shift around him as Audra confesses the unthinkable truth she has buried for decades. Matt Clark, the very man Victor has sworn to destroy, the shadowy enemy responsible for manipulation, bloodshed, and chaos across Genoa City, is not just another villain to Audra. He is her biological brother, the last living connection to a childhood ripped apart by secrets, abandonment, and a past soaked in pain. And as the revelation echoes through the room, Audra collapses into tears, explaining in fractured, breathless sentences how she and Matt were separated as children after their mother vanished under mysterious circumstances, how she was placed into the system and forced to reinvent herself to survive while Matt was pulled into a darker world of crime and manipulation, molded by resentment and rage, and how every move he has made since resurfacing in Genoa City has been fueled not only by vengeance against Victor Newman, but by a twisted belief that power is the only currency that guarantees survival, leaving Victor stunned as he realizes the depth of Audra's internal war. Torn between loyalty to the man who gave her a chance in the corporate world and the brother whose blood runs through her veins. While Audra admits she has spent months trying to sabotage Matt's worst impulses behind the scenes, feeding Victor partial truths, misdirecting investigations and walking a razor's edge to keep Matt alive without betraying Victor outright. A balancing act that finally collapses under the weight of impending violence as she reveals that Matt believes Victor is responsible for their mother's disappearance. A belief rooted in fragmented memories and whispered lies from powerful men who used Matt as a pawn, and that Matt's obsession with taking Victor down isn't just business. It's personal, generational, and fueled by unresolved trauma that Audra herself has tried and failed to heal, forcing Victor to confront an impossible dilemma where strategy collides with humanity as Audra begs him to stand down, insisting that killing Matt will only unleash a chain reaction of consequences that will devastate not just her but everyone caught in the crossfire, including Nikki, Adam, Victoria, and even the fragile stability of Newman Enterprises itself, while Victor, torn between his instinct to eliminate threats and the rare flicker of empathy sparked by Audra's pain, begins interrogating her with surgical precision, demanding to know how long she's known, whether Matt has manipulated her, and if this confession is just another calculated move, only for Audra to fire back with brutal honesty, admitting her own guilt, her own compromises, and her own fear that Matt is already too far gone to be saved, yet still clinging to the hope that Victor, a man who understands the cost of family wars better than anyone, might see a reflection of his own fractured relationships in this nightmare and choose mercy over bloodshed. A hope that seems almost impossible as Victor's mind races through every betrayal Matt has orchestrated, every ally he has endangered, and every line that has been crossed, culminating in a chilling silence where Victor finally acknowledges the truth's weight, warning Audra that family ties do not excuse betrayal, that love does not erase consequences, and that Matt has set forces in motion that may be beyond anyone's control, even his own, leaving Audra to sob that she doesn't want Matt to be a monster, that she remembers the boy who protected her when they were small, who promised they'd escape together, a promise shattered by fate and manipulation. And as the scene closes with Victor turning toward the window overlooking Genoa City, the audience is left with a haunting question that reverberates through every corner of the canvas. Will Victor Newman spare his enemy for the sake of Audra's shattered heart, or will this devastating confession only hasten Matt's downfall, igniting a family war that proves once and for all that in Genoa City, blood may be thicker than water, but power always comes at a price? As the weight of Audra's confession settles into the marrow of Victor Newman's bones, the silence inside his office grows so thick it feels suffocating, broken only by the distant hum of the city below, a reminder that Genoa City never stops moving even when its most powerful figures are frozen by truth, and Victor, ever the master tactician, begins to recognize that this revelation isn't just a personal complication, but a seismic shift in the chessboard. he has meticulously controlled for decades, because now Matt Clark is no longer merely an adversary to be neutralized but a living embodiment of unresolved history, a man driven not only by ambition but by blood, betrayal, and a warped sense of justice, forcing Victor to reassess every move he has already set in motion, including the quiet alliances he has formed, the pressure he has applied through legal channels, and the contingency plans designed to permanently remove Matt from the equation, while Audra, sensing the dangerous calculation unfolding behind Victor's steely eyes, presses forward with her truth, confessing that Matt knows the walls are closing in and has prepared his own endgame, one that doesn't just threaten Victor but targets the very foundation of his empire, revealing that Matt has evidence, financial records, offshore accounts, and encrypted communications that could expose decades of Newman backroom deals, secrets Victor believed were buried with ghosts of the past. And as Victor absorbs this, his jaw tightens, not in fear but in grim recognition that Matt has studied him well, learned his patterns, and positioned himself not as a reckless villain but as a mirror image of Victor's younger, more ruthless self, a realization that unsettles Victor more than he will ever admit aloud, because it suggests that Matt's rage is not random but inherited through circumstance, shaped by the same brutal lessons Victor once embraced to survive. And Audra admits that this resemblance terrifies her, that watching Matt spiral deeper into obsession has felt like witnessing an unstoppable collision between two immovable forces, both men convinced they are right, both willing to scorch the earth to prove it, leaving her trapped between them as collateral damage in a war she never asked for, yet cannot escape. And as Victor finally speaks, his voice is low and deliberate. He makes it clear that he does not forgive betrayal, even when it comes wrapped in family trauma, warning Audra that her divided loyalties may already have sealed her fate within his inner circle, yet surprising her by acknowledging that killing Matt outright may no longer be the cleanest solution, not because of mercy but because a public execution of power would only validate Matt's narrative and ignite chaos that could spiral beyond Victor's control, prompting Victor to propose something far more dangerous, containment rather than destruction, a strategy that requires Audra to become the bridge between them, a role that terrifies her because it demands she confront Matt directly, not as an enemy or accomplice, but as a sister begging him to stand down before he destroys himself and everyone around him, a task Audra fears may be impossible because Matt's identity has become so entangled with his vendetta that surrender would mean admitting his entire life has been built on a lie. And as Audra leaves Victor's office shaken but determined, the ripple effects of her confession begin spreading across Genoa city like shockwaves after an unseen explosion, with Nikki sensing something deeply wrong in Victor's demeanor, Adam growing suspicious of sudden shifts in strategy, and Victoria noticing the cracks forming in Victor's otherwise impenetrable armor, while elsewhere Matt, unaware that Audra has laid bare their shared bloodline, prepares to execute his next move, one that involves luring Victor into a false sense of security, while simultaneously tightening the noose around Newman Enterprises. Through legal pressure, corporate sabotage, and psychological warfare, convinced that his victory will finally avenge a childhood stolen and a mother lost. Yet as Audra confronts him in a tense, emotionally charged meeting, she reveals that Victor now knows the truth, triggering a volatile reaction from Matt that swings wildly between fury and heartbreak, accusing Audra of betrayal while exposing the deep wounds he has never healed, admitting that everything he has done was driven by the belief that power is the only shield against abandonment, a belief forged the night he watched their family fall apart. And as siblings clash, old memories resurface, nights spent hiding from strangers, promises whispered in fear, and the moment they were torn apart, moments that briefly pierce Matt's hardened exterior, suggesting that redemption might still be possible. Yet even as Audra pleads with him to stop, warning that Victor will never hesitate if pushed too far, Matt reveals his final contingency, a plan so devastating that even Victor cannot fully control the fallout. One that will expose secrets capable of destroying reputations, marriages, and legacies across the entire canvas, leaving Audra horrified as she realizes that saving Matt may now require sacrificing her own future, her career, and possibly her freedom, while Victor, watching events unfold from the shadows, must confront the ultimate irony of his life, that the greatest threat he has ever faced is not an outsider but a man forged by the same ruthless world Victor helped create, setting the stage for a showdown where family, power, and truth collide, and where the question is no longer who will win, but who will survive when the dust finally settles in Genoa City. As the revelation that Matt Clark is Audra's biological brother continues to reverberate throughout Victor Newman's mind, the tension in Genoa City thickens like storm clouds over a restless skyline, and every corner of the city seems suddenly charged with a sense of impending doom, because now every interaction, every alliance, and every whispered secret carries the weight of the unimaginable truth, forcing Victor to navigate a minefield of strategy, emotion, and morality that he has never encountered before, while Audra herself struggles with the enormity of what she has unleashed, knowing that her confession has put her in a position where she cannot retreat, where every word she speaks to Matt must be carefully measured, every gesture must balance persuasion with empathy, and yet even as she attempts to play peacemaker, she senses that Matt has evolved into a force that no one in Genoa City fully understands, a man hardened by years of manipulation and neglect, whose intelligence and ruthlessness are matched only by the intensity of his emotions now complicated by the realization that he has a sister who not only knows his secrets but may also wield the power to influence his choices, and Matt, torn between anger at perceived betrayal and the faint spark of a long-lost connection, vacillates between embracing Audra as family and lashing out in ways that could irreparably destroy both of them, while Victor, ever vigilant and calculating, recognizes the precarious balance of power, knowing that one wrong move could ignite a chain reaction that would obliterate not just his business empire but his family, and as he convenes a clandestine meeting with key allies, including Nikki, Adam, and Victoria, Victor begins to map out a strategy that combines legal maneuvering, corporate pressure, and psychological tactics designed to corral Matt without driving him into a corner where desperation could lead to violence, all the while acknowledging that the human factor, Audra's role as the bridge between the warring siblings, adds an unpredictable element that no spreadsheet, memo, or contract could account for, and Audra, haunted by her own guilt and fear, starts to quietly gather intel on Matt, retracing their shared past, visiting the places of their childhood memories, and attempting to understand what shaped him into the man standing before her now, a man whose brilliance is intertwined with darkness, whose charm is shadowed by menace, whose love for his sister is inseparable from his obsession with revenge. And as the days pass, every encounter with Matt becomes a test of courage and resolve, with Audra walking a knife edge between honesty and deception, pleading for reason while managing the truth carefully, all while Matt continues to execute his own intricate plans, subtly undermining Victor, recruiting allies in the shadows, and setting traps designed to test both his sister's loyalty and Victor's capacity for mercy. Yet, even as Matt maneuvers with precision, there are fleeting moments when the child he once was emerges, moments where Audra sees a flicker of the brother she remembers, the boy who once protected her, the sibling who once made promises that now feel like echoes of another life, and these moments provide Audra with hope that, somehow, she can reach him before it is too late, that she can channel his fury into something less destructive, while simultaneously alerting Victor to the volatile mix that now dominates every interaction, forcing him to consider strategies that are as unconventional as they are perilous, including leveraging public perception, corporate influence, and even subtle threats to Matt's allies, all designed to contain him without igniting the full force of his wrath. And as Audra arranges a tense confrontation with Matt at an abandoned warehouse, the place of so many childhood games now transformed into a stage for confrontation, the city itself seems to hold its breath, the skyline darkened by the gathering storm outside. And in this electric atmosphere, Audra pleads with Matt, recounting memories of their shared past, the nights they survived on whispered courage, the moments of joy and fear, and imploring him to step back from the brink before he destroys everything and everyone they both care about, while Matt, alternating between rage and nostalgia, struggles to reconcile the sister he barely knows with the adversary he believes has sided with Victor, questioning her motives, accusing her of manipulation, and yet unable to fully resist the pull of familial bond, a tension that escalates into verbal sparring, emotional confessions, and near physical confrontation, each word heavy with meaning, each pause pregnant with danger, and as the confrontation reaches its crescendo, Matt reveals that he has already activated contingencies designed to destabilize Newman Enterprises, leak damaging information, and undermine Victor's allies, leaving Audra reeling, caught between loyalty, fear, and hope, as she realizes that saving Matt may require an alliance with Victor that is as uneasy as it is necessary. And in the weeks that follow, every character in Genoa City begins to feel the tremors of this revelation. Nikki wrestling with Victor's unpredictability, Adam seizing the opportunity to maneuver within Newman Enterprises, Victoria struggling to reconcile the empire she has inherited with the chaos Matt represents, and even minor players. Sensing that the tides are shifting in ways that will redefine alliances, loyalties, and power structures, while Audra continues to risk herself daily to protect her brother, navigating the treacherous waters of corporate espionage, personal vendetta, and family loyalty, employing subtlety, persuasion, and sometimes deception, and as Matt's plans escalate, including blackmail schemes, financial manipulations, and carefully orchestrated social upheavals, Audra's desperation grows, forcing her to confront the ultimate question. Can love for a sibling survive when that sibling has become the architect of chaos, when the world they inhabit rewards cruelty and punishes compassion, and when the line between justice and revenge blurs into a haze of blood, power, and ambition, leaving every decision fraught with peril? Yet Audra persists, driven by the flicker of hope that Matt, beneath the armor of rage, remains the brother she once knew, a belief that pushes her into increasingly dangerous territory as she becomes the intermediary, the negotiator, and sometimes the shield between him and the full force of Victor's wrath. And as Genoa City watches, seemingly unaware of the storm gathering in the shadows, the tension builds toward a confrontation that threatens to redefine family, power, and loyalty, a showdown where no one will walk away unchanged, where choices made in desperation will echo through the streets, boardrooms, and hearts of the Newman family, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats, breathless, anticipating the moment when Victor, Matt, and Audra collide in a battle that is as much emotional as it is strategic, as much about legacy as it is survival, where every secret, every lie, and every act of courage or betrayal will determine not just who controls Newman Enterprises, but who survives the personal and psychological devastation that is already engulfing Genoa City, and where the ultimate question remains unresolved, a suspenseful echo haunting every alley, office, and mansion. Can a sister's love save a brother who has been consumed by the very darkness she hopes to overcome? And can Victor Newman, the most formidable man in the city, navigate the treacherous waters of morality and power to prevent the entire empire from collapsing under the weight of a truth that was hidden for decades? A truth that now threatens to explode, leaving nothing intact, and everyone vulnerable, in a drama that proves once again that in the young and the restless, blood is never just blood, loyalty is never guaranteed, and the consequences of secrets revealed can be cataclysmic, unpredictable, and irreversible. In the tense aftermath of Audra's confession, the city of Genoa City itself seems to tremble beneath the weight of secrets long buried, with every corner echoing the reverberations of her words, and as Victor Newman sits alone in his office late at night, the city lights casting sharp shadows across his face, he contemplates the unimaginable reality of Matt Clark not only being alive and at large but being the brother of the woman he has come to trust and respect, a realization that chills him. Despite decades of navigating betrayal, murder plots, and corporate warfare, because now the enemy is no longer merely a rival to be outmaneuvered but a living embodiment of family pain and fractured loyalty, and Victor, whose instinct has always been to strike first and think later, feels an unfamiliar hesitation as he weighs the consequences of action versus inaction, knowing that a misstep could ignite a firestorm that would consume not only Matt and Audra, but the entire Newman legacy. While Audra, herself grappling with guilt, fear, and determination, moves carefully through the shadows of Genoa City, contacting old friends, tracing Matt's movements, and subtly planting seeds of reason, desperately trying to reach the brother she barely knows, while Matt, intelligent, vengeful, and emotionally volatile, executes a series of maneuvers designed to destabilize Victor, including leaks to the press, financial manipulations that unsettle Newman Enterprises stockholders, and carefully orchestrated encounters meant to test Audra's loyalty and force her to choose sides in a war she never asked for, a war that now defines her very existence. And as the tension escalates, Audra realizes that words alone may not suffice to reach the part of Matt that remembers their shared past, the boy who once clung to her in fear and whispered promises in the dark, and she begins to take calculated risks, meeting him in neutral spaces, engaging him in conversations that mix reminiscence with challenge, appealing to the brother he once was while confronting the man he has become. And in these tense, emotionally charged exchanges, Matt's anger and vulnerability collide, creating explosive moments where the threat of violence feels omnipresent. Yet even in these volatile moments, There are sparks of recognition, moments when Matt's eyes soften, when memories of childhood laughter and protection flicker through the hardened exterior, hinting that redemption, though perilous, may still be possible, while Victor, observing from the sidelines, simultaneously admires and fears Matt's cunning, recognizing that the younger man has learned all the lessons of survival, manipulation, and ambition that Victor himself once mastered, and yet lacks the experience, patience, and strategic restraint that defines a Newman patriarch, creating a dangerous combination of brilliance and recklessness. And as Audra reports her encounters to Victor in painstaking detail, offering insight into Matt's emotional state and likely next moves, Victor begins to formulate a new plan, one that is as psychological as it is tactical, blending threat, leverage, and potential reconciliation in an intricate design aimed at containing Matt without igniting a chain reaction of devastation. While every character in Genoa City begins to feel the tremors of this growing conflict, from Nikki, who senses that Victor is unusually guarded and burdened, to Adam, who observes from the sidelines and calculates how he might exploit the unfolding drama for his own advantage, to Victoria, who struggles to reconcile the empire she has inherited with the chaos now threatening its foundation.